Welcome into a brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Mayakoba Championship. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, good to see you. Happy Wednesday night.
Good evening, Rick. How are you? How's everybody out there? Excited for another PGA Power Hour. This time we're at Mayakoba.
That's right. Yeah, we are getting towards the end of the fall swing. This has got a couple of big boys at the top and a fun little golf course in which accuracy, Joe, accuracy. Keep it inside the mangroves. Keep it in play. Give yourself a chance this week.
Yeah, keep it inside the mangroves. You mentioned, I think, that off the tee ticks up a little bit of importance just because you can't really spray it here too much. Not an overly long golf course. Past Palom, soft greens, which of course throws a little bit of a wrinkle and adds another sort of stream that you can dive into some of the analytics, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But it's been a fun event. Vic's going for the three-peat. How about that?
It's I was gonna say uncharted territory. Tiger's done it like 5 or 6 times himself, and then we had I always confuse these guys. Appleby did it at the Tournament of Champions, and Victor could go. Steve Stricker did it, and Victor could add his name to the list of three-peaters if he is able to accomplish that feat. If you're just tuning in and you're like, what in the world is going on here? We're playing stock market DFS. It's the Jock market. So right now you can bid on shares of golfers and you can also short them. Joe, I shorted Seamus Power last week.
How'd that work out?
Did not go great for me. I'm going to just say, hey, I wanted to show people the downside. You know, you got
pitfalls.
Things go wrong with shorting. Yes. I've been Seamused.
Yeah, this is what's fun about the PGA Tour is a guy can absolutely lose it with his irons from every statistical metric and all of a sudden show up to an event and still win. So it's what makes this thing crazy. It's what makes variance so unique and fun. And I'm sorry you got burned, buddy.
That's all right. Happy to put my money into the market for everybody else. Seamus Power last week IPO'd at $7.02 per share. Got the full $25 per share payout. That's nearly $18 of profit per share. And then Thomas Dietrich had himself a great week. Patrick Rogers had himself a great week. And then a couple of cheaper options. Kevin Yu, Ben Griffin, rounding out that top 5. So plenty of value to be had. There was nobody who was overly expensive last week. Denny McCarthy was our highest IPO, right? He was $8.37. He made you $5.60 a share. So all in all, pretty good market as long as you weren't shorting Seamus Power.
Yeah, no, totally. It was surprising that Denny made that little bit of a run there to end up giving you 67% ROI at what was clearly his highest IPO of all time. And then you just got a mix, which we kind of expected of a lot of guys from Griffin to Baddeley to lower that were just kind of, up and coming players that we had our eye on that you just kind of had to take a handful and hope that they played well this week. Griffin, of course, disappointed anyone who had betting numbers on him and maybe had like a top 3 or a top 5 in some each way markets. But he ends up turning, more than doubling your money, finishing at $15 a share off a $4.55 IPO. Extremely positive performance overall for him. And we've got a much better field at the top this week, which I'm looking forward to getting into.
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is you can bid on shares of golfers. That's going to close around 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So if you're watching live, it's about 40 minutes or so that you have left. If you want to get your bids in, if you got to go eat dinner or go watch a World Series game or do whatever, just you put in your high bid and the site will proxy for you. You can also put your shorts in right now. So if you're looking at the top of the board and you think Victor is really going to struggle, you could, in theory, I wouldn't do it. You could short Victor Hovland, and then depending on his finishing position, if he struggles, you could make money on that side. The other thing, Joe, is that we've been doing the rewards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now there is a reward system in place for basically the more that you play and the more feats that you accomplish within the jock market, you get points. And then each week they raffle off cash or shirts or free trading weeks. And then, of course, there are now cumulative rewards. So if you get to 100 points, they just give you a $20 credit. So week 3, that's the week that we're in. Some of the challenges that you're looking for: trade $100 in each the NFL and the NBA and IPO. That'll get you 5 points. And if you trade 50 live and 50 in IPO of PGA this week, that's worth 2. So a couple of extra incentives out there, ways to help that bank account and help tidy up your portfolio.
Yeah, additional incentives for people who have been playing for quite a while to go, to kind of coincide with the obviously $100 deposit match that we're offering for new users using that code POWER. So plenty of different ways to earn, earn some extra dollars beyond just strictly playing on the actual app.
Okay, so let's turn our attention to this week. You mentioned it. It is a much better field at the top. You've got a big 4 or 5 with Scheffler, Morikawa, and Victor and Finau. If you want to throw Aaron Wise into the mix, you've got a much deeper top of this field. And I think that's probably a decent segue into our market movers segment here, Joe, or excuse me, our bullish or bearish. I almost threw it back to market movers. Our bullish or bearish segment of the show, where we pick 4 golfers and we choose whether we're bullish or bearish. Because I know one of the guys we got to talk about is Aaron Wise.
Yes. Okay. So caveat here. I looked at basically the same price in terms of fair value projection, and Alex Noren is right there, which is a very obvious, I think, bearish guy to play. But I think he's not going to get nearly to the same price. I think Wise actually is elevated. They have him right now at the 8th projected pre-rank at $7.50 per share, which means he's going to need to finish top 20 to pay that back. I think he clears that. I'm going to make a bearish stance on him here. And I know that the returns have been significant. They have been grand. But you look at where those average IPOs are, and they are significantly lower than where they are at this week. There are 4 great players in this field that I think are at the top. I think he's in that next level. Now, where he's been able to make extreme strides in his game are around the green and putting lately. I de-emphasize that this week based on past Palom. It's a different putting surface. You have guys that are not normally great putters like Victor and Finau and these other guys who have seemingly broke through on this surface as it's a bit slower on the greens. It's not overly tricky around the greens, which makes it easier on other players because the ball isn't going to roll out really far. So having both of those two as some of your top assets, I think, are mitigated somewhat this week. I'm going to be kind of risky and take a bearish stance on a hot Aaron Wise right now.
Yeah, you're crazy. How could you take a bearish? No, I'm just kidding. No, listen, I do think it's interesting because we talk about this all the time. It's going to like there's a price for everyone in both directions. There is a price for a guy that you're really not interested in, but if he's $2 a share, you're like, okay, that's a price I can buy at. And there is a price for Aaron Wise, who I'm quite high on, not just this week, but just moving forward into the future, that, if he gets to like 10 or $11, like obviously I'm not buying. If he gets to 8 or 9, you got to start, scratching your head. If he gets the like there's a price for everyone. So that's what kind of makes this interesting. It makes it strategic. I'm going to continue to take this bullish approach on Aaron Wise, who's been great around Mayakoba. Absolutely dialed in right now. The putter, let's go. Let's win one of these, bud. I've been waiting for the win for 18 months. Maybe, probably not. but
Yeah,
maybe.
he's made you some money in jock market, but if you've been
Oh
waiting,
my
if you've been
God.
solely banking on the win, it's been a little bit of, obviously a struggle. He hasn't broken through yet. Yeah, for me, it was just, I just see it as a place to potentially jump off board after a good little run.
Yeah. Last 30 starts, he's averaging a
Sheesh.
26. That's big time. 26%
Yeah.
ROI. A winner in 19 out of 30. That's big stuff, but not a win to be found, which is tough for your outright wagers. Let's go now to Tom Hoagie, who had that stretch of golf kind of towards the end of last season where he was really struggling, and you can see it here on his graph. I mean, look at this. $1, $1, $1, $1, six $1 starts in a row. And then he started to figure it out, Joe. And he got back to being a great iron player, in particular, being a good wedge player. He's even putting a little bit better now. I'm clearly taking a bullish stance on Tom Hoagie. What say you?
Yeah, I agree with you there. The fair value projection would require him to finish 26th or better this week in order to make you money at that $6.36 price point. He's done that pretty easily in 6 consecutive events. You can see there when you did bring up the graph how he kind of does have these peaks and valleys, but this is as consistent, I think, of a great run as he's been on. I think we're at another course fit for him in his where he excels with the wedges and some of the short iron play. The putting has been a little better lately. I think it's a good course fit, good form. I'm okay with being bullish as well on $6.36 as a price for Hoagie.
Next up, Jason Day, the Aussie. Our fair value for him tonight is $5.40 a share. That asks him to finish 31st or better. Bullish or bearish on Jason Day?
I'm bullish, man. This is kind of your fault. You know that?
It's always my fault somehow.
You set out the bat signal earlier this week on some of the strokes gained numbers on Jason Day.
I'm just tweeting facts. No opinions to be had here.
I know, but you know how I interpret those facts. I'm like, okay, I got to look more into this, and it's been solid. And I start to look throughout his career, and he's streaky. He's very streaky with these irons throughout his career. He's clearly in a little bit of a mode now. I feel like he has outplayed his finishing position, if I'm wording that correctly. So I feel like he's played even better than some of the results would indicate. I think that the 11th place finish, which was the last event that he played at the CJ Cup, was a big positive. I'm bullish, man. I don't know what to say. I'm going to continue to see if he can get it back going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think you should be, and I think I am too. This is there's a lot to unravel here with Jason Day. I think just from the stat perspective, which is what I'm showing right now, and that bat signal that you mentioned, that's 7 straight events that he's gaining strokes on approach. He hasn't done that since he was a 7th ranked player in the world 5 years ago. He's driving it much better. You also, when you hear the interviews, there was like a 3-year period, Joe, where all the interviews were like, God, my back is killing me.
Yeah,
I can't put in as much practice time as I want. Yeah. You don't hear that as much anymore. He seems to have that figured out. He seems to be feeling generally a lot better. So when you get a stat profile that looks like this, kind of the vibes and the narrative side of things, yeah, I think Jason Day is a solid play. And listen, he's returned you 105% ROI at the CJ Cup, 199 at Shriners, 2 top 11 finishes in a row for J Day. So we'll see if he can keep it rolling this week.
Yep.
The last one is Brian Harman. I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to take a bearish approach on Brian Harman, but I want to use this to have kind of a larger conversation here. We have his fair value at $8.44. That's 16th or better. It's pretty hefty for Brian Harman. However, he's been playing great. The only concern, and I want to know how you deal with situations like this, going to a course like El Camaleon, which should be a great spot for a guy who hits a ton of fairways and hit his wedges well, it's been pretty bad here, right? So, like, what do we do with a guy who should be good? This is going to be his 10th trip, so it's not short on sample size. Just can't seem to figure it out.
Yeah, what do we do? I think we take a bearish stance on him, just like you're doing here. I'm in the same boat as you. That fair value projection of $8.44 is high. It's asking him to finish 16th better. For some context on that, Just looking at some of the betting markets, a top 20 on Brian Harman this week. So a bet to finish inside the top 20 is going to net you plus 160 odds. So obviously, in terms of the betting market, he's an underdog to finish top 20. Yet here we have 16th place fair value projection. I don't think he quite gets that high tonight. But that said, I'm more on the approach of you. We've seen a lot of ups and downs, a lot of missed cuts in there. The course history is not good. All of these are sort of indicators to me to most likely lay off.
All right. If you think Brian Harman's going to struggle like he has historically, you might want to put a little short sale order in.
Yeah.
Or, hey, if you think we're idiots, which certainly might be true, go ahead and buy up all your shares of Brian Harman. That's the best part. You get to decide. Now, before I unveil the big board, which is our live look at the pricing, we've got about 30 minutes to go in this IPO. And the code that you're looking for, it's POWER. That'll get you a deposit bonus. There's a link in the description as well. Joe, there's that big 4, maybe 5 if you include Aaron Wise. Who do you think at 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight ends up being our most expensive golfer in the market?
I think it's going to be Vic. I think Scottie Scheffler is warranted. He's obviously the number 1 projected rate, but I think some of his recent struggles, coupled with the fact that Vic obviously has back-to-back wins at this course, we've seen him have a little bit of success in the fall as well, which would indicate some nice little form for Viktor Hovland. I think that he probably surpasses the number 1 pre-ranked player and takes home the crown. I don't think he's quite going to get to 11-22, but I do think he gets into double digits.
All right. Well, if early returns are any indication, Viktor Hovland already off to a great start. $8 a share right now with about 28 minutes to go, which means you're asking Viktor to finish 18th or better. Now, he was a winner at the Zozo Championship, a little bit of a loser at the CJ Cup. He is the 2nd pre-ranked golfer, which means he breaks ties to everyone besides Scottie Scheffler. We'll just flip it around because you brought up Scottie here. No movement on Scottie yet. That's obviously going to change. But Joe, is this a level of concern for you? Scottie is a loser in 3, 4, 5, 6 of his last 7 markets.
Yes, of course it's a level of concern. I do think this is, I was kind of surprised that he played here, but I think this is a good, little potential get right spot for him. I mentioned earlier some of what I think was obviously a strength of him at the time when he was making his great run through the early spring last year, which was he was leaning on a terrific set of hands in short game and a hot putter. Those have kind of faded recently. So he obviously, you had it first that he made the putter change. I believe there at the CJ Cup, still struggled. But I think that the change could indicate a little bit of, if we look a little bit more into what that could lead to in the future. I think slower greens here this week, less slope, an easy spot to get your short game sort of figured out and hopefully dialed back in. But he's really got to kind of do it with the irons and with staying in the fairway off the tee. And I think if he can do those things, it could be a nice spot for him to get back on the right track, regain some confidence. You saw those around the green numbers were just atrocious. This isn't a spot I expect him to really struggle with it.
Yeah, I can get up and down for most of these spots around the greens, and my short game is pretty horrible. Tom Hoagie and Aaron Wise out of the gate. Quickly here, both $5 a share. Hoagie sports the 14th pre-rank, Aaron Wise the 8th, and then Hayden Buckley. Joe, this is a guy I really like. Not just remove this week, just kind of like long term. He has an elite skill set. Very talented golfer. He's currently $3 a share. He's going to finish well above that. His fair value is closer to $4 a share. I think he'll break through that, no problem. This is 3 straight top 20s for Hayden Buckley, including a 5th place finish at the Zozo Championship.
Yeah, he's on a great run. Obviously, going from Vegas to Zozo as well, finishing top 20 in both of those. The ROIs have been fantastic, each over 70%. The numbers are trending the right way. There's great betting numbers on him this week. I wonder if seeing him on a lot of different cards boosts a little bit of the popularity and could potentially inflate the price a little bit. This week, we typically see things like that when the public sentiment is sort of garnered and congregated around a certain player. It lifts their price a little bit in the jock market on Wednesday nights. We'll see how it kind of unfolds here over the next 20 minutes or so.
let's flip this around and look at the top 10 golfers. And I'll give this a refresh in a second. And not a ton of movement now. There's going to be plenty as we get closer to 9 o'clock. But let's talk about the rest of those big boys. Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, number 3 and number 4 in the pre-ranks. Their fair values, 1006 and 951 respectively. If you could only get shares of one of these guys, Joe, who would it be?
For me, it's Finau. But let's talk about Morikawa for a second. What's wrong with him right now, the stat wise? Like, what is okay? So he's got Rick. He used to be one of the most consistent players. He has 2 top 20s since the Masters, 2 top 20 finishes. That's not his game. Like, tell me what this guy, obviously the putter, losing 6.10 at the CJ Cup, losing 6.68 in the Tour Championship. That's awful, but we've seen him bounce, right? We've seen him have a very wide spectrum of he can gain 3 strokes and the next week he can lose 6 and then he can be even. He's one of those guys that seems very hit or miss and inconsistent with the putter. Does that potentially lead to some opportunity? It seems like his betting price, his talent level, where he's projected right here do not align with where we expected Colin Morikawa to be about maybe a year ago this time.
I'm generally just fascinated with what the next, 3, 6, 9 months looks like for Colin Morikawa. The good news is all the rumblings about how bad he was on approach last year, that he didn't have the cut, he didn't have the baby fade, he couldn't find it. He tried to play a draw at the US Open, almost won it, probably should have won it. Like all of this, worst year of his career, he was still 3rd in strokes gained approach, right? Like this kid's a joke. The putter is a big time problem, but that's nothing new. I'm expecting a pretty sizable year from Colin Morikawa coming up.
I'm kind of expecting a good week. The putting is not hard here. Vic's done it here, and his short game has not been tidy. We know that he's still elite, like you said, with his iron play long term, and he's going to keep it in the fairway. Like, I'm not really worried about Colin getting in the mangroves, so he's not going to be taking penalty drops. Fairways, greens, and just putt level, and you should be able to secure a top 8 from him, it feels like.
Yeah, 8th in accuracy off the tee last year, off to a pretty good start. Excuse me, 8th this year, bless you. 29th last year. So obviously he plays out of the short grass very, very frequently. Okay, we'll go back to the big board here. Getting a lot of love from some guys who have played well as of late. Kevin Yu up to $3.11. Austin Smotherman, 306. These guys are not going to finish near the top of the board, but them along with, Ben Griffin, Aaron Baddeley being rewarded early in this market for some good play as of late.
Exactly what you said. Being rewarded for good play as of late. Kevin Yu continues to crush the jock market. Yep. Another good return last week, 244% ROI, 3 consecutive finishes for him all throughout this fall. Like you mentioned, we see these early movements on a lot of these guys who were popular in recent weeks who have continued to return it. Obviously, the top names will make their run here over the next 15 minutes or so. But yeah, we've seen a lot of guys sort of take a big step forward this fall.
Let's talk about some of the bigger names here. Kind of golfers 5 through 12-ish. It includes, Billy Horschel, Aaron Wise, who we've chatted about, Taylor Montgomery, who's just been this top 15 machine, and he's paying it off in the jock market. He's only lost once in his jock market career. I mean, where do we go if we're allocating funds from Billy Horschel down to Taylor Montgomery at the moment?
I have big question marks about Montgomery. Done it a lot with the putter. Some of the results don't align with some of the stats, but could he just be one of those players? We see him from time to time. He was the most, I guess, highly decorated Korn Ferry Tour player in terms of what we think talent-wise coming up this year. He's continued to play well. He's continued to finish well. He's returned an ROI in 5 out of 6. He's been fantastic. $6.90 fair value projection here tonight. Feels high. That would definitely be his highest price ever. Do you think the putter is going to kind of catch up with him, or are we just on the brink of this is what he does, and when the iron play catches up, he's going to find himself right in the lead on Sunday?
I think the putter will regress, but I don't necessarily think that his results have to, because these results go back a long time. I mean, he's been playing great golf for basically a year.
Yes.
And yes, now that we have access to his 4 strokes gained starts this year, it's like, holy crap, he's Denny McCarthy times 2 on the putting surfaces, which I do not think is going to continue. I just think he's in a really good putting run, but I think he finds himself on the first page of the leaderboard a lot.
Yeah, agree.
Brendan Todd is certainly someone who has my attention for this week. Joe's fair value's just shy of $6 per share. He's at 401 right now. He's been a winner in 3 of his last 4. He's won this event. Great putter, lots of confidence for someone who week in and week out doesn't have to play, has to play from behind everybody else in his group. That's not going to matter this week. It's more of a positional golf course. So Brendan Todd's certainly one that checks off a lot of boxes for me.
Absolutely, me as well. I was hopeful to bet him this week and did. So I like his upside and potential to win. We've seen a little bit of form. I don't think that the CJ Cup at Congaree was a great course fit for him. He still finished 7th, so a bit of a surprise there. We're back to a comfort zone place for him. He plays great sort of on these Paspalum coastal Caribbean type courses. I would expect, given the incoming form, we see a nice performance out of him. Another guy for me kind of in that range is Griot too. I don't mind going back to Griot. He's had a great run this fall. 6 out of 8 he's returned. We've seen, some of the results come from him on these coastal type Caribbean-ish tracks be very solid over throughout his career at the Mayakobas and Bermudas and Corraleses of the world. I don't mind going right back there. The ball striking numbers continue to be pretty solid on the whole. He's putting it much better, even though he lost some at the CJ Cup. I think it could be a good spot in a sneaky spot right in that Todd range for like someone like Griot.
Yeah, he is like the king of Paspalum, right? And we don't get like the full-on strokes gain breakdown from those events generally, but like if you just look at pure strokes gain total on golf courses with Paspalum greens, Emiliano Grillo finds a way. Let's continue a little bit further down the board here and see if we can find some value. I'm going kind of sub 30 on the pre-rank. So we talked about Jason Day. He's sitting at 30. Thomas Dietrich, who continues to pile up great results, Joe, $2.09 a share. That's well short of his fair value for tonight. Aaron Rye, who was very popular last week and didn't really return anything, hasn't moved off of $1 yet. Davis Riley 2 weeks ago was way shorter in the market and everybody loved it. Like, I think there are some buy low opportunities for guys who had like one bad start.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Hubbard is another one that comes to mind. Patrick Rogers, I shorted him last week. That was my Seamus Power. That did not end well. So yeah, there's players in this range. Dietrich is like, it almost feels like you should kind of just keep going to this well. It feels like he's gotten the knock from a lot of people that I've talked to that are highly plugged in on the European tour that he's kind of like, he doesn't finish, can't win. But so many top 15 finishes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 7 are top 15s. That's extremely consistent. If you can get him around the $5 range, I wouldn't mind going right back there.
Yeah, guess what market doesn't matter if you never win?
This one.
Yeah, this one right here. Second
Bingo.
place, third place pays quite a bit, especially if you're going for Thomas Dietrich level prices. Okay, let's continue. Let's go even deeper here. So let's go sub 50 in the pre-rank. So that's Nick Taylor. We can get Adam Long, who's been Adam Long is the only guy in this field who has better course history than Victor Hovland does. He's got a runner-up, a third, and I think like an 18th or something like that, maybe a 22nd. Bo Hostler back in this field. Who else? I mean, Martin Laird can pop up from time to time. Are any of these names of interest to you?
I want to talk about all 3 guys at the bottom of your list there. I like Robbie Shelton a lot. My boy Marty Dow, who I had plenty of shares of last week, performed well at the Bermuda. I talked last week on the show about his tendency with his Korn Ferry numbers to perform very well on these types of golf courses. Don't mind going back there. And if you want a boom or bust and you don't care really if you go broke, but you want to try and get a top 3, like Cam Champ, I think could have something. I worry about the driving accuracy here. Of course, it can go poorly, but I think the price point that you're going to pay with him, there's an upside there that will outweigh that potential of a miscut. I believe he has a top 10 here in his career, like a 30th and then a miscut in his 3 times. I think Pass Palom is a good surface for him. He played really well, and actually I thought could have won in Mexico last year before, a late run by John Rahm that kind of forced him out. Top 10 at the Zozo leading in. We look for these things, and we've talked about it before with Cam Champ. We're like, show me a start. And we didn't have strokes gained stats, but like, show me something, and then I want to play you the next week. We've kind of seen that. Maybe it's a spot for him.
You're going to talk me into him. I hate this. Oh, God, I hate
I did.
it. Oh no, you're right. No, so there are a few guys in this field who are, I don't know what his outright odds are, but I'm sure they're long, who have like legitimate winning upside. He has legitimate winning upside. His history is a breadcrumb. He gives you one breadcrumb and then he plays really, really well. That 8th place finish at the Zozo might be that breadcrumb. The Pass Palom combo at Mexico is interesting. He's horrible off the tee, but he probably clubs down a lot this week. And like
probably clubs down a lot. And should he have one of those weeks where the driver's kind of going, he's going to have a massive advantage of like short little clubs in. I don't know. 3 PGA Tour wins, though. You can't like overlook that. When you mention you want someone with winning upside, there's very few guys down here this low in the field in a young career that can attest to that.
I'm legit just gonna have to just go bet him now. That's wow. That's pretty good. Okay, we are at by my clock 8:46 p.m. Eastern time. So we got about 13-14 minutes until this IPO is going to close, and the market is getting much more mature. If you want to get involved, the code you're looking for, it's POWER. There's a link in the description to get you a $100 deposit bonus. Go back to earlier in the show. We showed you what the missions, the rewards are for this week and for longer term. You can earn those points by making accomplishing your goals and getting access to more funds. So here's the top of the market, Joe, and it's shaping up now. Victor Hovland, 879, the most expensive golfer that we have in the field. Tony Finau, 781. Scotty Scheffler, 777. So Scotty's made a pretty good move over the course of the last couple minutes. Then Aaron Wise and Billy Horschel hanging in there. A little bit of a slow start here for Morikawa, who's at 666. He is the 6th most expensive golfer in the market right now. So we'll see how he does. This middle area of the board, you mentioned Patrick Rogers, JJ Spawn is here, JT Poston is here. Are any of these names of interest to you, or should I continue to keep scrolling?
There's one that's kind of insane that I have some interest in I'm just going by the pre-rank. I've thought a little bit about Justin Rose. Rick, talk me out of this because the results have been horrible. I just feel like he has a little bit of upside there. He's had a nice little off season where we don't really know what to expect. I know that he makes his off season home in the Bahamas there, which has a very similar course setup to what we're going to see this week. Iron play, like major champion upside at one point in his career. It feels like if we're going to pay, $5-6 for Jason Day, I don't mind also paying like $2.25 for like Justin Rose and just having that little downside there. He made a nice run. What was it at the Canadian Open? Yeah, where he finished 4th. Most recently a miscut. We just haven't seen him. What do you make of a lot of the guys like Tony Finau, who we saw at the President's Cup? But there are some players in this field who we haven't seen much out of this fall. Is that a concern point for you?
No, generally not. And generally what I do is these guys kind of just get reset, right? Justin Rose, his end of year wasn't great. He popped up a couple times. He didn't play a ton of golf, but now did he have enough time? It's been, nearly 3 months to go rest, get right, work with your coach, get your reps in. Like, I generally reset these guys back to what we expect them to be. So yeah, I think that's positive because Rosie's like 100 round baseline's better than what it was to end the season. So doesn't have to win here in the jock market, just has to outperform his expectation, which do you know what his pre-rank is?
Yes, his pre-rank is 26, which would be $5.56, but he's only at $1.20 right now, and we're less than 10 minutes from close. So I doubt he clears anywhere close to $5.
I think you're going to get a decent value on him. That's not bad. And a 26th pre-rank, in a 122 player field, it's pretty darn good for Justin Rose.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We are barreling towards the end of this IPO, and Scotty Scheffler has just passed Victor Hovland as the most expensive golfer here. So 907 for Scotty. So the way that translates, essentially 14th place or better right now for Scotty, with Victor at 879, and then a little bit of a gap to the guys in the $7 range. That's Finau, Wise, Horschel, Colin Morikawa. Let's see if we can find some real value on the second page here. We have guys, Joe, like Garrick Higo, who's good for top 5 once every 12. You just don't know when they're going to be. Grayson Sigg has played much better as of late. Davis Riley is $2.09, and 3 weeks ago was the most popular golfer on the planet. Anybody on this second page that's moving the needle for you?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Higo. I think he already blew that a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple. I don't mind Will Gordon. Not a bad finish last week. Top 35. Some good finishes this fall. Three top 36s and 4 starts all throughout the fall. He's currently $2.89 from what I'm seeing as a 68th ranked pre-ranked golfer. Ben Griffin, obviously a good performance last week, in good form. Did Eric Barnes end up missing the cut last week? Yeah, it looked like he did. But he was a guy that I had pointed to last week that was a really cheap price, all the way down there right now at $1.89. So really sort of dumpster diving, but had really good performances throughout his young career on these types of golf courses. So look, we've seen it every week. You can take a handful of these guys. If you pick the right ones, this is where you're going to get your biggest ROI. This is your biggest chance to get a substantial jump in your portfolio, not only because of the price point and where the payout structure is, but also the amount of shares that you can allocate to someone at $2 per share is a lot more than paying up for a Scheffler at 10.
Yeah, I want you to dive into that, because it is valuable, right? Like, the lowest payout you can get is $1 a share. So you have a golfer who is $2 a share, your risk is $1 a share.
Correct. Yeah, your risk is $1 a share, and that's if he finishes absolutely dead last or essentially misses the cut. Right. If you want to double that, if you're paying $2 a share, 42nd place or better is going to more than double your money. If you want to triple your money, 28th place or better is going to triple your money. So the point being is that worst case scenario, you only lose half your money. Best case scenario, you can go 10, 12x if they somehow finish first. So there's just a lot more upside than downside when you sort of use that multiplier effect of being able to get more shares. If you make the right selections down here, it's where you're going to see your biggest returns.
8 minutes away from this IPO closing. We'll get Joe out of here in a couple minutes so he can go make his bids. But as you're looking at this board, kind of last minute, Joe, does anything stand out to you here? Is anybody lagging? I think it's worth noting, Joel Damon is getting close to his fair value. He's 521 right now. If you like that Paspalum narrative, he's somewhat interesting. Russell Henley, if you like that longer term form, Russell Henley is interesting. Or a guy who literally won last week, and the only mention that we had is because he burned me in a short, is Seamus Power, right?
What's his price?
He's $490 right now.
Yeah.
Are we missing something here at the last couple minutes?
Yeah, especially if we're going to use last week as a relative comp. He's playing great. He sort of got some things figured out and was able to pull off a win under difficult conditions, under a similar sort of relatively similar course setup. Yeah, I don't mind him being sub $5 there.
Okay, Joe, why don't you get out of here
All right.
and go do your bidding? So what Joe's going to do is he's going to go get involved in the market. He's going to put his bids in, and then we'll check in with him after this IPO closes and see who he ended up getting so we can compare portfolios. The code to get involved in this is POWER. That'll get you $100 deposit match. There's a link in the description. Plus, again, rewind and go check out the accomplishments. They've been tweeted out by Jock Market. They've been posted on Instagram. Ways to earn points that can win you more money, can win you swag, can win you a lot of different things. But this IPO is going to close in about 5 or 6 minutes or so, and I'll take you the rest of the way, because this thing's getting quite mature right now. And we've got a 2-man race at the top. Number one is the number one pre-ranked golfer. That's Scotty Scheffler. He breaks all ties. That's why that pre-rank is important. So if Scotty Scheffler is in a 9-way tie for second, he's getting the full $20 per share payout because of that pre-rank. 951, still well short of his fair value, which is pretty aggressive. $12.67. 951 is asking Scotty Scheffler to finish 13th or better. Right behind Scotty is Victor, $9.33 a share. Back-to-back winner of this event, played well at the Zozo Championship, finished T5 there, was a loser despite a 21st place finish at the CJ Cup. Then you get two golfers in the $8 range. Tony Finau, who we have not seen yet this 2023 season. Last time we saw him was the President's Cup. $8.50. Colin Morikawa, the fourth pre-ranked golfer, $8.09. So golfers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in order of their pre-rank. Billy Horschel, $7.56 with Aaron Wise breaking that streak at $7.50. Then a big gap of $1 down to Hoagie and Grillo and Kuchar and Todd and Harmon. Those are the names lurking in that $6 range. Let me refresh the board, because what happens here is a lot of these bids start flying in late. Everybody wants to wait until the last minute to get their bids in. It becomes a frenzy at the end. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah, pretty big jump there from Billy Horschel, I believe, now up to $7.59. A little more value. You can still get some top 10 golfers for fairly cheap. The cheapest top 10 golfer you can get right now is Brian Harmon, $6.12. Or excuse me, it's Alex Noren, $5.19 for a top 10 pre-ranked golfer. The concern there, not many wins on the docket for Alex Noren as of late here in the jock market. So maybe a bit of a generous pre-rank for him tonight. Let's go back and look at this from a top-down view. Jason Day sitting right at his fair value. He is right on it, $5.37. That implies he has to finish 31st or better. J Day still has a couple minutes to go here, so we'll see if he'll crack through his own fair value for this evening. And Seamus Power, who we just mentioned, trying to close in on his fair value, about 50 cents per share away from it right now at the moment. Let me refresh it again. iClock has 8:57 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got a couple of minutes here, and the top is probably going to stay this way. Probably going to be Scotty, probably going to be Victor, then Tony and Colin Morikawa, probably in some combination there. The big four separating themselves from the rest of this field. KH Lee, the seventh pre-ranked golfer, lurking here at $6.11. That is $1.70 below his fair value. Coming off a third place finish at the CJ Cup, where he returned you nearly 400% ROI, he is lurking $1.70 below his own fair value. Andrew Putnam, an interesting name that's come up a couple of times this week. Last week, or his last start at the CJ Cup, broke a stretch of multiple triple digit returns, a T12 at the Shriners, a T2 at the Zozo Championship for Putnam. We'll see if he's able to get back on track this week. Let's go further down the board, find some names that we talked about maybe a little bit earlier. Davis Riley, $1.08 below his own fair value. He's $3.99 at the moment. Cam Champ just got over his 7 cents more than his own fair value. That's a share price of $3.45. The second page of the board, some real value here. If you think Ben Griffin can go back out and have another great week like he did last week, $3.12. He has returned you 230%, 137, and 809 in 3 of his 6 cash markets. We don't have a lot of information on him, but we do have some. Okay, 8:59 p.m. Eastern time. This thing's going to lock at any moment. I'm going to try to steal one more refresh here and see where this board is at. Look at this. The big boys at the top are big boys for a reason. Scotty Scheffler 1028, and Victor's trying to make the move 3 cents behind 1025. That's implying both of these guys finish about 11th or better if you are buying at these prices. Tony Finau has separated himself from Colin Morikawa, 902 and 822 respectively. Then the gap to Horschel and Wise. So the top of the board.
We're close, buddy.
Oh boy. All right. Shut it down. Man, shut it down. IPO is close. What'd you miss out on?
Svensson.
It's always Svensson with you.
It's always Svensson with me. Yeah, it was sitting right there at $4. Was going to go a little bit higher than that. Missed out. We'll see if it ends up a good thing.
All right, IPO is closed. Shut it down. Shut it down. So, what's happening right now is we're letting the dust settle. The shares that you won are being sent over to your portfolio, and then basically immediately live trading is going to begin. You can buy more shares. You could sell some shares if you want. There's a buyer out there for you. You can short guys, all that fun stuff. And then obviously, as the week goes on, nothing's stopping you from doing that live. So, Joe, do we have your portfolio handy?
Yes, we do. I've got some extra dollars to play with in the live market this week because I had a lot of guys disappear here as they came over to holdings. But here's who I ended up with. I have 2 buys and 2 shorts. Okay. The 2 buys are Jason Day, who we spoke about, who was just under his fair value projection, who I believe we both were bullish on. So hopefully a good sign there. Cam Champ, spoke about him, $3.45. Got some 20 shares of Cam Champ. And then the 2 players that I shorted were Brian Harman, who we also spoke about there, and Harris English as well. I just think has been pretty awful.
Yeah, not a lot of green.
Missed out on Finau, missed out on Svensson, missed out on Power, Dietrich. All 4 of those guys like disappeared within the last 30 seconds. So those were the guys that I was high on that I was not able to get any shares of.
Jason Day, Cam Champ, and then a short of Brian Harman, Harris English, and plenty of money to mess around during the live market. JG Funk got Morikawa, Wise, English, Burmeister. Burmeister's a guy we should have talked about. I like that one. Davis, Riley, Mark Hubbard, Patton Kazire. Brent got, I'm assuming that's, well, I shouldn't assume. He got Lee. That could be Danny. Could be KH.
Could be Hodges.
Could be Hodges. Yeah. Brent, this is not enough information. Munoz, Rye. Oh, he got Hodges here. So we can rule out Hodges. Okay. Champ, Hickok, Aaron Baddeley, and a micro holdings of Straka, which sounds like just a little bit of Straka, English, Power, and Rose. And Lynchpin says he didn't get any shares, got his deposit in late. Good news, Lynchpin. Just go buy them now. Right?
Yep.
Nothing stopping you.
Yep, they're all there. Just go ahead and put in a market order. If anyone wants to ditch their shares, you're in, buddy.
And Joe's buying. Joe's buying some shares right now as well.
I'm in there.
Okay, so the codes you're looking for to get involved: Power, $100 deposit bonus, all that fun stuff. Here is the board, and it got pretty hot and heavy there. But the 2 who we thought would be at the top, Scheffler and Hovland, are. I can't remember, Joe, the last time we had 2 golfers over $10 each. $10.50 for Scotty, $10.25 for Vic.
It has been a while. I would be a little bit more. I like Vic better. I feel like he's shown a little bit more of a level of consistency. Scotty has not. But I think both hold a good bit of upside at $10 plus. You're asking them both to finish 11th or better to return you a profit there. Good probability. And if they win, you're still more than doubling your initial investment. So both of those guys, I think, warranted at the very top.
Finau, Morikawa, 902, 822, no surprise there. Horschel, 779, no surprise there. Wise at 767, yeah, it's probably fair. And then here's probably the first, and I'm fine with this because Grillo's been great on Paspalum, but the guy that doesn't really match the pre-rank, Grillo, 23rd on the pre-rank, goes for 692, so a lot of love there.
Yep. A lot of love for Grillo. I wanted some as well. It just ended up getting a little bit too high and missed out on Tony. Also, I had a bid in for $9, so missed out by 2 pennies. That's just how it goes. Good news is, like you mentioned earlier, I can go back in there and attempt to get some more shares, or maybe he bogeys the first hole and I can get him a buck cheaper.
Yeah. Taylor Montgomery, 620.
Yeah.
which is asking him to finish about 26th or better. I'm not sure if people are aware. He only finishes inside the top 15. So
Yeah.
seems like you can just cash that profit right now for Taylor. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been up to,
Right.
but either you're not a believer that the putter can continue, but if he's just this top 15, 20 machine, that's a pretty good deal on him.
Yeah, pretty good deal. Only needed top 20. And like you mentioned, he's done that in every single time he's teed it up and returned your profit. So
Probably a pretty good deal on Aaron Rye, who everybody loved last week.
yes.
And he was fine, and he's finished below his fair value this week. Dean Burmeister, okay, that was the one of the shares we saw come in 470. Rosie got to 444. Didn't even sniff his fair value, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't think he was quite going to get that high. I was hoping maybe for sub $4, but maybe I talked someone into him. But yeah, there's a couple like you is there. Your guy Buckley was right there in that $4 range. I really believe that we'll see one or two players out of that range make a nice jump inside the top 10.
Yeah, makes sense. Just looking through, seeing if anything else stands out here. Any golfers that are like wildly off from their fair value or anything like that? I don't.
Yeah. And
See
Callum
it.
Tarrant was really popular there for a stretch at sub $3. Bo Hostler,
Yeah,
he was like the king of. I remember when we did like the end of the year show last year. He was like the king of ROI in the jock market, just because every market he was like $1.79 and would make you $3.50.
yeah.
Hey, top 16 of the Zozo, maybe a good deal there on Bo.
Yeah, 80 cents short, 75 cents short of his fair value. He's only got to finish like 45th or better, probably not even to return you a profit there. Okay. Joe, any final thoughts here on Mayakoba before we get out of town?
Yeah, I'm just kind of interested to see if we're going to continue this trend of like really the premium, the cream of the crop sort of finishing, and we end up getting a Scotty or a Hovland Sunday win again. It feels like it feels like the narrative's got to end at some point. We start to get some of these long shot winners back on the PGA Tour, but interested to see that. It's probably the best field that we're going to see for the remainder of the fall, with Houston and the RSM coming up. Then we'll get a couple of big names down there in the Bahamas, but will be nice to see these guys tee it up and see what kind of form that they're in the last run here.
If a favorite wins that's not named Victor, it'll be the death of me. This has been a bit, for a guy who loves betting like the 30s to 60s. This has been like a bad year for me.
Yes, I know it's been a terrible year. I had even I think 5 of the 6 events we talked about last week in the fall, the winner has come inside the top 10 of the pre-rank.
Yeah.
And 2 of them have been ranked number 1, which I think long term that's definitely unusual. And I think it's more of just like a recency trend versus a monumental shift that we're going to see moving forward. It's got to come back. These guys, and we like to bet 35 and 40 to 1s, Rick. We got to see some of these come back and start hitting.
From your lips to the ears of the golf gods. Let's hope we can get this figured out. All right. Follow Joe on Twitter. It's at TourPicks. You can follow me at RickRunGood. We'll be back next week for Houston, then RSM, then TBD. Maybe Hero World Challenge if we have an event there. Maybe some off-season strategy stuff. Maybe some good interviews. We'll figure it out.
Cool. Good luck, guys.
All right. See ya. Good luck.